Wait, you're a Bears fan and you're not subscribed to my channel? Before this video starts, make sure to 1. Hit the subscribe button below to catch all Bears content right here on this podcast. 2. Hit the bell notification because you, my friend, are a diehard Bears fan. And 3. Like this video and tell all the Bears fans you know about the channel. Alright, that's better. Now that you're actually subscribed to the channel, make sure to bear down and enjoy this video.
You're listening to Keek on the Mic.
Keek on the Mic.
A podcast all about the Chicago Bears. This podcast starts right now.
Keek on the Mic.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Before I get this episode started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on my Instagram page at Keek on the Mic, and make sure you share this episode of Keek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. So, since the NFL draft is officially over and free agency is still going, but it's definitely has died down over the last couple of weeks, I thought it would be a very good and fun idea to tell you guys who I predict to start at each position. This has been a reoccurring question with Bears fans. Like, who's going to start at the quarterback position? Will it be Justin Fields or will it still be Andy Dalton? You know, of course, we just cut Charles Leno. So who's going to start at the left tackle position? Of course, we let go of Kyle Fuller. Who's going to start at the opposite end of Jalen Johnson? So there's still a lot of questions on who is actually going to start for the Chicago Bears in certain areas for this upcoming season. So I'm going to go through each position group and give you guys my prediction and their backups of who will be starting for the 2021 Chicago Bears. And like always, make sure you comment down below in the comment section and let me know who you guys want starting in these different positions on the Chicago Bears. So we're going to start out with the most important position for any NFL franchise, and that is the quarterback position. As much as this pains me, as much as it hurts my soul, I still do think that Andy Dalton is QB1 right now with Justin Fields right behind him, and then Nick Foles at QB3 slot. So when I look at the quarterback room, I see three pretty good quarterbacks. I do feel like this is a really good situation for Justin Fields to hopefully take a step back and learn how to be an NFL quarterback. And don't get me wrong, I do feel like Justin Fields can play right now. And also, if Justin Fields comes in minicamp, in training camp, and preseason and outplays Andy Dalton, I think it's going to be really tough for Matt Nagy to not pull the trigger and not start Justin Fields. Will I be mad if we start Justin Fields? No. I think he's ready to play right now. I kind of want Justin Fields to sit back for a year, and I know they're trying to create this Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City environment, but it's like, we have to understand that we're not Kansas City. I think Justin Fields can play right now. At the time, I don't think Patrick Mahomes was actually ready to play. I think Justin Fields, knowing that his big game experience, he went to Ohio State, he played against some big schools, played in some big games. I don't think any moment will phase Justin Fields. So like I said, if Justin Fields comes in and outplays Andy Dalton, I think Justin Fields could possibly be the week 1 starter for the Chicago Bears. And before I move on to the running back group, I don't think Nick Foles will see the field ever again as a Chicago Bear. And if he does, that means Andy Dalton and Justin Fields are both hurt. So I don't anticipate Nick Foles seeing the field at all in 2021. So we're moving on to the running back room. And let me tell you guys, I am super excited for the running back room. The 4 running backs that I have on the roster, starter is obviously David Montgomery, our workhorse. I think David Montgomery is in store for a huge season. Hopefully behind an improved offensive line. Behind him, I have Tariq Cohen. Then I have Damian Williams in free agency. And then I also have Khalil Herbert, our newly drafted rookie running back. I think this is a solid running back room. I think we should anticipate, hopefully, a lot of big plays coming from this group. Obviously, with Damian Williams, Tariq Cohen, and Khalil Herbert, they're going to play a massive role in special teams as well. But I think it's good that there's a lot of quality backups behind David Montgomery, so he doesn't have to be the workhorse all the time. Of course, he's going to be our main running back, but it's always good to have those good, solid backups behind him, which I think the Chicago Bears did a really good job this offseason to get him some help behind him. So now we're moving on to the receiver room, and this one was kind of tough for me. Obviously, we know that we have Allen Robinson as our wide receiver number 1, Darnell Mooney as the wide receiver number 2. I'm going to put Anthony Miller on the depth chart as well as wide receiver number 3 unless he gets cut. Obviously, if he gets cut, I can see maybe Riley Ridley getting that spot. Of course, we have Marquise Goodwin. Marquise Goodwin can play a factor in the slot, maybe on the outside, and maybe as a special teamer. We just recently signed Damiere Byrd. I also think he can make the roster. And then, of course, we have Daz Newsome. Daz Newsome, I think he's going to make it as a receiver, but I think the reason why Daz Newsome may make it over Riley Ridley and Javon Wims, because I think Daz Newsome can play a vital role as a special teamer. So, obviously, Allen Robinson's number 1, Darnell Mooney number 2, and then the rest is kind of like, it's kind of like just a huge guess. We're going to have to see these guys compete in training camp and see who wins the battle, and I like that. I like how Ryan Pace has formulated so much competition within the wide receiver room. Not only the wide receiver room, a bunch of different areas of the team. There's going to be a whole lot of competition. And another thing before I move on, one other thing that I love about the wide receiver room this year is that there's a whole bunch of speed. It's almost kind of like Matt Nagy has this plan, to bring all the speed around Justin Fields in the future, right? And I feel like eventually Justin Fields and these fast receivers are going to have a heyday. There's going to be wide receivers flying all around the field, and I think that's going to emulate almost like a college offense, which is going to favor Justin Fields in the future. So now we're moving on to the tight end room, and I have Cole Kmet as being the starting tight end. I think Jimmy Graham has a lot left in the tank, but I think the Chicago Bears are trying to get Cole Kmet in a rhythm to where he becomes a starter. Obviously, Jimmy Graham will be number 2, and then I think J.B. Holt will be the 3rd tight end on the roster. I'm excited for Cole Kmet. I like Cole Kmet. I watched a lot of Cole Kmet, obviously, before he was a drafted Bear. He's a Chicago kid, grew up a Chicago Bears fan. He's meant to be a Chicago Bears tight end. So I'm super excited to see what year 2 has in store for Cole Kmet. And then, obviously, Jimmy Graham had a big season last year, 8 touchdown catches. And then J.B. Holtz just adds really good depth behind both Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham. So now we're moving to the offensive line. Obviously, we just released Charles Leno. It had to be done. We saved $9 million by cutting Charles Leno. So it was an expected move. So now we're looking at left tackle. Who's going to replace Charles Leno at left tackle? I think Tevin Jenkins is a day 1 starter at left tackle. He's nasty. He's aggressive. He's going to put people's face in the dirt. I'm super excited about Tevin Jenkins. He'll get to start left tackle. Behind him, I think Lachavious Simmons. We drafted him, I think, a couple years ago. He'll be Jenkins' backup. Left guard, we get James Daniels back, which is a huge deal. I think having James Daniels back is going to be huge for the Bears' offensive line. Behind him, we have Arlington Hambright, which he could be the backup, but he also could be on the practice squad. Obviously, I like Alex Bars either at right guard or left guard as a backup, or maybe even a starter at some points. So Hambright can easily be on the practice squad as well. Moving on to center, I think Sam Mustipher gets to start at center with Cody Whitehair as his backup. Right guard, I have Cody Whitehair with Alex Bars as his backup. And I know a lot of people will say, well, shouldn't we put Cody Whitehair at center? No, I think Sam Mustipher proved himself last year at center. I think he played very well, and I just think Cody Whitehair at right guard at the time would be a better fit, and just keep the offensive line strong and try to keep it the same how it was at the end of last season when the offensive line was actually starting to click. And then at right tackle, I have Jermaine Ifedi. I'm starting, and Larry Barome, our newly drafted rookie out of Missouri. And don't get me wrong, people. I think Larry Barome can challenge Jermaine Ifedi for the starting right tackle spot. I know a lot of people are saying, well, why don't we cut Jermaine Ifedi too? I don't think there's any reason to cut Jermaine Ifedi right now. I think we bring him into camp, let him compete. I think Ifedi and Larry Baroom are going to have a good competition, and I like Larry Baroom. I think just like Jenkins, he's aggressive, he's nasty, he brings that nasty edge to the offensive line, and I'm super excited to see what the offensive line can do this year. Obviously, the offensive line was up and down, had some injuries, had a lot of changes to it, and it struggled for most of the year. But then at the end of the year, you saw that the offensive line picked up some steam. So I'm super pumped to see what the offensive line does this upcoming season. So that concludes the offensive side of the ball. Now we're moving on to the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to start with the D line. Starting at DN, we have, of course, Akeem Hicks with Angelo Blackson, which is one of our free agent signings. At nose tackle, we have Eddie Goldman coming back, which is a huge, huge deal to get Eddie Goldman back into the fold. And behind him, we have Kairos Tonga. Really excited about Kairos Tonga. Great value there, especially getting him in the 7th round. I think that's a great backup for Eddie Goldman. At the other DN spot, we have Bilal Nichols and Mario Edwards. Obviously, Bilal Nichols had a huge season. Obviously, with the absence of Eddie Goldman, he kind of took over that role that Eddie Goldman played, but now Bilal Nichols and Eddie Goldman are going to be on the same defensive line. Obviously, Mario Edwards was a kind of a big surprise for us, but he produced in a big way for the Chicago Bears defense. This defensive line looks really, really scary, and I think the Chicago Bears may get back to their dominant ways, back where they were back in 2018. So super excited about the defense, and then I'm super excited about this defensive line. Now moving to our linebacking core, we have Khalil Mack starting at one of the outside linebacker spots, of course, our stud linebacker with Jeremiah Tachu as a backup to him. We have Roquan Smith as one of the starting middle linebackers with Christian Jones behind him. Super excited to get Christian Jones back in a Bears uniform. Then with the other middle linebacker, we have Denny Trevathan with Iggy backing up him. And in the other outside linebacker spot, we have Robert Quinn. Hopefully he can get a big bounce back this season with Travis Gibson and James Valters behind him. And this can change. I think James Valters is really got to fight for a spot. I was kind of saying, how did Valters even get back onto the team? But I think Travis Gibson, hopefully we get to see him a little bit more. And I kind of hope that Sean Tassai will maybe on 2nd and longs and 3rd and longs decides to put Khalil Mack and Robert Quinn at DN, and then maybe put Travis Gibson and Atachu at outside linebackers and see how that works. I think that would make the pass rush even more dominant in certain situations. So, like I said, the defense is looking pretty solid as it pertains to defensive line and linebacking. So now we're moving on to the cornerback room, which is another interesting one for this upcoming season because, of course, we cut Kyle Fuller for cap situation. So it's a huge loss, and I'm curious to see how the Bears let these guys compete to try to find us a new starter on the other side of Jalen Johnson. So, of course, starting at the left cornerback position, we have Jalen Johnson with Artie Burns, Kendall Vildor behind him. And as of right now, I'm going to say the right cornerback spot is going to go to Desmond Trufant with Duke Shelley and Thomas Graham, which is our new drafted rookie out of Oregon. I think eventually, as of right now, I think Desmond Trufant gets to start. But I think slowly that Thomas Graham will sneak up the depth chart and end up starting maybe by the end of the year at that right cornerback spot on the opposite side of Jalen Johnson. Thomas Graham was a huge steal in this year's draft. He was ranked 76th on the PFF big board. We got him at like 221. So great value there in the 6th round. And I think Thomas Graham will move up quickly, not only because of his competitive edge, but I think Desmond Trufant, I don't know if he's actually going to make it a full season. He's had some injury histories where he can't stay healthy for a full year, and I do think that Thomas Graham may be better than Duke Shelley right now. Maybe even if we get Thomas Graham maybe in the slot cornerback role, that would be a good spot for him as well. And you have to think that a lot of cornerbacks also make the roster because of their use on special teams as well. So as of right now, I just have Jalen Johnson and Desmond Trufant as my starting corners. Now we're moving on to safety. As a strong safety, I have Deshaun Gibson with Jordan Lucas, which Jordan Lucas opted out last year. That's why we didn't see him. But I'm expecting him to be a great backup for the safety room. But Deshaun Gibson, that strong safety, and then of course Eddie Jackson starting at free safety. I'm hoping Eddie Jackson can have a bounce back year. That's the hope. He's had 2 down years. Hopefully Sean Desai can get Eddie Jackson back to what he was back in 2018. Obviously, behind Eddie Jackson, we have Deion Bush and DeAndre Houston-Carson. Same deal. I think Deion Bush and DeAndre Houston-Carson, they don't play as many snaps on the defense side of the ball, but they're great value when it comes to special teams. So I'm excited for the safety room. I'm excited to see what Sean Desai does with this whole entire defense. Hopefully he can get them back to their 2018 ways, and that would be ideal. Now, of course, the specialists, starting at punter, we have Pat O'Donnell, kicker, money, Cairo Santos. Cairo Santos was money last year. Hopefully he can repeat what he did back last season. And then at long snapper, we have Patrick Scales, and those are our specialists. And then at kick returner and punt returner, it can be a toss-up. I think Daz Newsome has the possibility to be a punt returner and kick returner. I think Khalil Herbert has the possibility to be the punt returner and kick returner. I think Marquise Goodwin has the possibility to be both. And also, if we decide to keep Anthony Miller, I think he has the possibility to be a punt and kick returner. I don't want Tariq Cohen back there anymore because obviously last season when he was back there, he ended up getting hurt, even though it was his own teammate's fault. I just want to focus on Tariq Cohen being as a running back and maybe even as a slot receiver at times. So we have a lot of good players, a lot of good talent. But let me ask you guys this. Who do you guys want starting at each position for the Chicago Bears in this upcoming season? Let me know in the comment section down below. But before I let you guys go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on my Instagram page at Keek on the Mic. Make sure you share this episode of Keek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, I'll catch you guys for an all-new Bears episode right here on Keek on the Mic. Thanks, guys.
Now this is a podcast all about Bears. You either cheering for this team or just pulling your hair. I like to take a minute, just sit right back and tell you how I became the #1 Bears fan. That boy is Benny Hunter. Cake on the mic, cake on the mic, cake on the mic, cake on the mic. People, that's the intro. Sacramento, California, born and raised. And Antelope is where I spend most of my days. Talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down.